Well, hello everyone. I'm back. I feel like what's it from The Shining? Doesn't he say that? Oh no, I don't know where that's from. Somebody tell us in the comments where that's from. It's a character. He says, I'm back. I feel like that's Jack Nicholson from
Uh,
The Shining.
no, that was not The Shining.
No, what was it from? Can't
I don't,
even think.
we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, we will. Okay. All right. Yeah. Look at how brilliantly I've started the show off already. Anyhow, hello everyone. It's great to be back. It's great to be sitting here across next to Clay so we can chat. This will be so fun. How have you been, Clay? I've missed you.
I'm good. I'm good. It's
Good.
good to have you back. As I've heard a number of fans and family members tell me that it's always better when it's the two of us together.
Clay did just before we started. Clay did tell me that who'd you say it was your mom or
My
your
dad.
dad?
My
Your
dad. Yeah.
dad. Yeah, your dad was like, better. What do you say? It's
Better when it's both of you. Thanks,
yeah,
Pop.
family knows how to cut you, right? They just know how to cut you right in the
I,
heart.
Listen, I can always count on him for honest feedback. But yeah, lots to talk about tonight. So
Yes,
let's
indeed. All right, let's get that
go.
intro out of the way so we can get started. Here we go. OMG. Well, you know what we have to start with. Everybody knows what we have to start with. We got to talk about this. And of course, we know this has been the buzz, since the trial started, right? I mean, what's going to happen? And the general consensus for most people, I think, was that there's no way. There's no way that they're gonna indict him. It's not. I mean, convict him. Thank you. And well, not only did they convict him, they convicted him on all 34 charges. Wow.
Yeah, I blew it last week. we joke about how often you and I are correct, and we predict things that happen, but I blew that one big time. I agree with you. I was in the majority, I think, of people who believed wholeheartedly that it was going to get not guilty, 34 counts, and move on to the next thing. And
Right.
holy cow, all 34, all
Yeah.
34. I think it
All
was an all or nothing,
34.
though. Don't you think?
Say
It was
again?
always going to be an all or nothing. Like it
Oh,
had to.
yeah.
It had to be
Yeah.
all 34 or no 34. I don't think there was going to be like a guilty on 9, not
Right.
guilty on the rest. I don't think
Yeah.
you were thinking that.
Although, honestly, I think, if I'd been really pressed to say, well, okay, so if they have to make some kind of big statement here, maybe it will be like one or two, and no. Oh, funny enough, I did see someone, and I have no idea who it was. It's like a legit political analyst. I think he's like a lawyer, all the things, all the credentials. And he was adamant. He's like, no, they're absolutely going to convict him. I don't know on how many. He said, but I fully 100% believe. And that guy was dead on. I wish I could find him. I don't know how to find him, but I watched him like, oh, this guy is like really confident about this. This is interesting. And that stayed in my head. So, and before we started, we were talking about, like this is one of those historical moments that most people are going to remember exactly where they were and what they were doing when they got the news of the verdict. And I'll tell you where I was. I was poolside in Myrtle Beach, hanging out with some friends, and my friend answered her phone. Another friend called, and she went, oh, you're kidding. And that was the moment. She leaned over and she said they convicted him on all counts. And yeah, and you get that little heart sick feeling, I like to think whether you like Trump or not, that's a moment. Like this is a former president. This is a presidential candidate, who is likely, he's the GOP nominee, of course. Wow. Like we've never seen this. We've never seen this before. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk more about DOJ because this wasn't DOJ. This was DOJ. You said this a couple of weeks ago. DOJ looked at
Mhm.
this months ago, and we're like, nope, no case there. I'm not even going to
Right.
pursue it. They let it go, and New York City jumped in, Alvin Bragg with both feet and said, they got it.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, this has never happened to a former president, let alone a presidential candidate, which he is both. And, there's a lot of, I saw a lot of reaction online, as I'm sure you did, as I'm sure everybody did. Social media, there was a lot of bluster out there. There was a lot of people calling for anarchy and revolution and overthrow of the government and all kinds of other crazy stuff, which obviously none of that happened.
Right.
But that was the initial reaction.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was because people didn't really know how to react, because this is
Right.
such uncharted territory. That
Yep.
does it matter? People were asking the question, well, can he still run for president?
That was the
Like,
biggest question.
people don't. It's not common knowledge. People don't
No,
know, because
I
this
didn't
is
know.
it's never happened before.
Right.
So, there's a lot up in the air, still is a lot up in the air, because we still haven't
Mm-hmm.
had sentencing yet. There's
Right.
a lot of people that are saying, and I'm not going to make a guess on this one because I've been so wrong on this whole trial. There are people that are saying out loud that he's going to get jail time, which I have a hard
Yeah.
time believing, but
Right. Yeah.
it's,
I think after the conviction, I think a lot of us, including myself, including you, I'm not saying that I believe that's what's going to happen. I'm saying I will not even bat an eye at a surprise, and I won't gasp. There won't be one of those if that happens. And in fact, yeah, no, I would not be surprised at all if that's what they went with. If the judge, Mershan, is that his last name?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're just very go big or go home with this. And they just want to go big, make as much of a mess of this as you possibly can. I mean, this isn't, they talked about, the red wave once upon a time, and it was, a little disappointing, to say the least. I think now this is a whole different conversation. Now, right away, right after the verdict, the site opened up for donations to help the Trump campaign, and it was within a matter of hours, like over 50 million. And correct me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong, Clay. Is he over 200 million right now? That was the last I heard, and I may have
I think
missed.
so. I
Or
think so. And yes, within hours, it was like 54 million. And then within 24 hours, I think it was 70 plus million
Mhm.
donations. Yeah, right after the verdict, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of, a lot of people have made the assumption right away, like, oh, well, they just handed Trump the presidency,
hmm
because there are so many people that know that this is a farce, and it's, they don't believe it to be true, and they think it's, what are they calling it? Lawfare. They're calling it
right.
lawfare now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I have also seen some polls, and we all know how reliable polls are. So take it with a grain of salt. But there are some polls where are some, you know, middle of the road conservatives, some of the middle that we always talk
hmm
about, who have
Yep.
now said they're absolutely not going to vote for Trump as a result of the conviction.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can only vote once. So while the people who are the most angry and the most MAGA and the most whatever, they're going to vote for Trump anyway.
Right.
So, that he didn't lose any of those people, but
Yeah.
it sounds like he potentially lost is some of the middle, which is what they're both fighting for. So,
hmm
the effect on the election is yet to be seen. There's also still more trials out there.
Right.
So we're going to have to wait and
Was
see
there
what
like
comes
three
of that.
more? Is there
Yeah,
three more? I don't even know.
lost
Does
track.
it matter? Does it matter?
There's still sentencing from this one that's got to happen. We don't
Right.
know what's going to happen there.
So now tell me if you heard this. Did you hear, or I should say I didn't even hear, I read it the other day that the GOP or who was it? Well, I guess it was the GOP wanted to move the Republican National Convention to like July 5th or something, or maybe even 4th. They may have even said the 4th, but I doubt that's even possible. They wanted to move it ahead of the sentencing. So I don't know if there's any validity to that.
Had not heard that.
Yeah, I heard. I only heard it once, and it was in passing. I really need to be better about like screenshotting my sources, and so I could cite my sources and be like, I saw it right here. I'll find
I
it for
think
you.
the logistics of that, is it possible? Sure. Would they have to find a different venue? Probably.
Right.
Would you have people who are supposed to, have already bought tickets and made hotel reservations and stuff?
Mm,
Would they be upset? Yes. Could you find a million other people to replace them? Of course you could.
easily, right?
Yeah. So that would be very interesting. But again, it goes back to the question of, does the sentencing affect his potential as a candidate? And none of us know. I mean,
No.
If the judge sentences him to prison, first of all, is he going to go to a prison, or is he going to be under house arrest? Like, that's
Right.
question number one. Like, what does this really look like if he does, or is it time served? Obviously, it's not going to be time served because he hasn't served any
Right.
time. But
Yeah.
suspended sentence maybe.
Hmm.
Be interesting conditions for that, because I'm sure
Right.
President Trump, who couldn't make it through the gag order, will probably violate whatever
No
order
question about it.
put on
Yeah.
that. There's a
Yes.
lot that goes with it.
I'm sorry. The options being thrown out, or the possibilities being thrown out, of course, are actual prison time. Like you said, house arrest, and then community service, which I got a big chuckle at, because I'm sure the minute you say community service, I'm sure we all picture the same thing. Yes, into the
Orange
bag on
vest,
the side of the
picking
road,
up
right?
trash on the side of the highway.
Yes, yes, we all got the same imagery going on there. Um, Man, I just don't know.
Can
I
they
just
can
don't
they
know.
not just qualify his 4 years as the president, where he didn't take a dime of
Right.
salary, as
Yeah, how about
community
that?
service time served? Like,
How about that?
I'm
Right?
pretty sure he's contributed enough to the nation that would qualify.
Yes.
I don't know.
One who is a bit rational would think, but we know that we're not currently ruled by rational people. And speaking of not being ruled by rational people, I'll throw the clip in here at some point. But did you see the video of Biden being asked, what he thought of Trump calling himself a political
Can
prisoner?
you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have been directly? What's your response to that, sir?
And it's so, because he's such a doddering old fool of a man, a lot of people could say, oh, he just looks like he's baffled and lost, and didn't understand the question. But to me, the way he turned around and looked back at the reporter, and he just had this smirk on his face that I just wanted to smack it right off. Oh, it's awful.
White
Yeah.
House had nothing to do with it.
Nothing. We're like, we don't know anything.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Nobody believes that.
Nobody does.
Believe that. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously the verdict is out there. The internet is undefeated. I love social media because people remember things that I'll never remember. They make brilliant points that are both funny and poignant.
Yes.
Like, I saw one today. Like, so does Stormy have to give back the $130,000 because she actually never kept her mouth shut?
Right.
Like,
Fair
so,
question.
so she violated that. So does she have to pay that money back? I've seen the list of it always starts with convicted felon, and it's a picture of President Trump, and then it's like convicted felon Nelson Mandela, convicted felon. You know what I mean? And it's all of these
Brilliant.
other
Yes.
amazing
Political prisoners, essentially,
political
right?
prisoners and people who've been prosecuted and all this stuff.
Brilliant.
And it's like, again, internet's undefeated, and people always bring up, the points that I'll never think of myself.
Right.
Because it's just, when you got, 8 million users out there, somebody's going to make something funny. But yeah, we are in a weird spot. People keep using Banana Republic. I keep seeing the flag upside down on everybody's social media, which I'm not a fan of.
Right.
Are we a nation in distress? No. Are people overreacting to this a little bit? I think a little bit, but I think
Mhm.
the point that we all need to take kind of heed of is, in fact, has the justice system been corrupted?
Mhm.
That's the real question. And
Right.
it's not about, well, he's a president and they did this to him, although that is
Mhm.
part of it. But it's like, was this carried out in the way that our justice system is designed? Because there's a lot of
Right.
things in question, right?
Mhm.
The judge should have recused himself is,
Yes.
under scrutiny, his
Right. And his
relationship,
instructions, there's been a lot
his
of
instructions, jury
right, his
instructions.
instructions
Yeah.
to the jury. And I tried now, let's see, I think that is when I actually
Yeah,
say
the gag order, like the whole way this
yes.
was conducted was it conducted in
Mhm.
the form and fashion that our justice system is designed? And
Right.
the answer for most of us is, I don't think so.
Right.
But some legal scholars got to take a unbiased view, like a legal
Mhm.
scholar should,
Yes.
and tell us if
Yes.
this was on the up and up or not.
Right. I mean, to the layperson, it certainly sounds not based on what we heard, what we've heard, we've been told. But all of that, anybody can say anything and call it the truth, and that's not necessarily the case, especially when we're talking about getting your information from the internet, as we well know. So yeah, I would be really curious to have somebody just break down each charge and where it's subject, because I think a lot of people are into the misconception that the trial was about his affair with Stormy Daniels, and it's not really. It's about the use or misuse of funds, of campaign
Correct.
funds, and falsifying records and documents
Yeah.
and all of those things. So it was really more like between him and Cohen, was more of what this was about. She's just kind of like the origin contagion, I guess. I don't know. But yeah,
She's
so
a
that
disease, all right. That's for
yeah,
sure.
right? Oh, just horrendous people. Just that whole thing, all of it is so absurd and ridiculous, and we're all sitting here going, I can't believe that this is what's happening right now. Like this is what we're living through right now and participating in. We are like participants
Yes.
in this circus right now.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, that's in the aftermath of this
Mhm.
is also what's kind of scary, because, like I said, there's been people. It's a lot of bluster and it's a lot of anger and but calls for violence, which again never happened. Calls for
Right.
revolution, overthrow the government, civil war, all kinds of other crazy stuff. Uh,
Mhm.
which I'm not taking that stuff off the table.
Right.
And I say that in the sense of another 4 years of President Biden, this country is going to be in such bad shape that I
Yeah.
wouldn't take anything off the table.
Right.
But right now, reaction to this court case, I think it's a little bit much.
Mhm.
But the aftermath too is, what if President Trump gets reelected? And because he's already making the threats.
Mhm.
As we kind of transition topics here, but he has already made
Right.
some outward threats that he's going to go after people,
Yeah.
and it's I'm not happy about that, and it is on the what you would classify as unprofessional, but the
Mhm.
DOJ has been weaponized against him,
Right.
and I've been saying this ever since the raid on Mar-a-Lago.
Mhm.
I don't like the term necessarily, but it's about as accurate as you can get.
Right.
Um, But I will tell you that if he gets reelected, I
Mhm.
and I said it when it happened at Mar-a-Lago. I said, "This is Pandora's box. You
Mhm.
can't undo this. You've the whatever saying you want to throw in there. Cat's out of the bag. You can't put it back in. All
Mm.
that stuff. You can't undo that." And he
Right.
he is a vengeful man.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he is going to come after some folks.
Mhm.
If and when he gets reelected, because I think there's still a high
Right.
probability that he is going to get reelected.
Yeah.
And when
I
he
think the
does,
probability is exceptionally high. And I think obviously the Democrats think so as well, because they wouldn't be going this hard
yeah,
otherwise, right? I mean, they just
yep,
would not be wasting their time if it were a waste of time. They know that he is a clear, present, real threat to their reign of dictatorship and all of those things. And I get your point. I don't think, contextually, I don't think you're or generally, I don't think you're wrong by any means of moving into dangerous territory when presidents start using their platform, as we like to call it for social media people, using their position of power to go after their enemies, because obviously this is what we're witnessing right now. That's what's happening. So now we run the risk of that precedent. Well, the precedent's been set.
Yep.
It's been set. I mean, this is now the question will be, will Trump, carry on this pattern? And I have a really hard time seeing how he could not. Like, how can you not, make people answer for this? Because it's a huge, what's happening now is in my opinion, just the opinion, it's a huge miscarriage and abuse of the justice system and abuse of us, Americans, for the values that we hold. And we're being abused by this, I think, greatly. He did not, remember the whole lock her up? He didn't go after her. He didn't go after her when he could have. And, and I'm sure, I don't know, are people sitting there saying, well, that was a mistake on his part, or was that a good call on his part? Whatever the case, it was the call that he made back then to not go, both barrels after her. And I wish he had. Maybe. I'm not sure if I do or not. Look at where we're at now when a president is using their power that way. But I don't know how he could not.
He's gonna now. I think,
right.
He gave a free pass. He followed what was past precedent and protocol in that he kind of, hey, listen, I won the White House. I'm in. I'm just going to let it go and I'm going to move forward.
Right.
And he did. He gave Secretary Clinton a pass, and he gave truthfully everybody involved with the Russian document, the collusion that happened with that, the dossier, which we know now President Obama knew about. Right.
Yep.
Came out, gave him a pass, didn't go after him, and just move forward. And then what happens? They did not give him the same kind of grace.
Right.
And they went after him, and they continue to go after him. And they go after him, like you said, both barrels. And he is going to turn around and do the same. And I hate to say this, he's going to do it tenfold, because that's who he is.
We're getting a different, harder version of him than what we had before. He talked hard then that time around, but I think he actually, based on what we saw of his presidency, that the realities of his presidency, his mannerisms and his style of speaking aside, his actual policies and the things that he actually did, his executive orders, all of the things that he did were really actually incredibly fair, level, just, good, right policies and things that he did that benefited the groups that are the most adamantly against him. The LGBTQ, all the other letters and numbers and symbols after that, that community, he enacted legislation on their behalf, on behalf of women, on behalf of indigenous people. He did a tremendous amount, minorities, like the whole works. He did a tremendous amount of good. Let's not forget about peace in the Middle East that, we hadn't seen up until then. I'm not saying he's not going to be that guy this time around, but he's going to be that guy, but also the guy that isn't holding back anymore, isn't using restraint. It's going to be.
It's going to get ugly.
They better run.
But
start getting on those private jets, folks.
Yeah. If you are, you're going to see things. I think the ultimate kind of, trump card is the Epstein client list, which by the way, nobody's been prosecuted off of. They made it through an entire trial of a president for felony charges and convicted him, but we haven't seen anybody off of the Epstein client list.
Yeah,
still.
How about that?
But those are the things that you're going to see. Really. You're going to see those things come. He is that vengeful that if there is anything to that client list, which we all believe there is, he's going to expose it.
Yeah,
he is.
I believe so. But he said as much. Reportedly, he said as much.
Yeah, it's all he's going to go. He's going to go after everybody, and he's not going to care about their health, and he's not going to care about their age, and he's none of it. And the first thing that's going to happen. Listen, by the way, if you're a conservative law enforcement official that's been around for a long time, there's going to be some job openings in DOJ here in a couple of months. Because when he wins, I could tell you right now, the entire leadership at Department of Justice is going to get fired. They're all
they're
gone.
out.
Yeah,
They're out.
Yeah,
Start those
FBI.
resumes.
Yeah, ATF, probably border. Well, maybe not border patrol because that. No, actually, that guy too. They're all everybody who is a friend of Biden, President Biden, they're all gone. If they played a hand in coming after him, President Trump, they're all gone. They're all going to get fired. Now they're all going to go on the speech circuit. They're all going to make $1 million a pop. They're all going to be rich people. However, they're all going to be out of a federal job. That's for sure. But he's going to go after folks, and he's going to find that the attorneys to do it. He's gonna load up as many of those judges as he possibly can. He's going to do a lot, and I will tell you, a good portion of it is against our principles as a nation. There are some dangers. People say he's going to ruin democracy. He's going to become a dictator. He's never going to come out of office. I don't think it's going to go that far.
No,
he will come in for 4 years and he will leave in 4 years. I'm totally convinced that's going to happen.
We got to also keep in mind his age, and that is an absolute factor. And, even though the man seems like the Energizer Bunny, I mean, he will slow down. He will slow down at some point and be done. He'll have proven his point. Now it's this term will be about a lot of things, writing, what he believes, and he's not necessarily wrong, righting wrongs that were done to him. And ending on, I think, a really powerful note for him. I think those are goals. And I think once he feels that he's accomplished that, we'll see. There's so much speculation on all of it. I mean, the only thing I feel strongly about is that he will be our next president. And, as I casually mentioned here and there, on here. And of course, you well know I'm a person of faith, so I don't actually worry about any of this. I have a moment I'll be a little more factual there. I have moments of anxiousness and worry, and then I remember who's in control, and it's all going to play out the way it has to play out. So anybody who's watching these things, and one of my girlfriends she's so upset. She is so worried. She's so stressed out about what's going to happen. And I said, there's no doubt it is all scary for what it means for all of us. But you do have to relinquish some of that control in some ways, and just have some faith, even when it's really, really hard to.
and even if that's not your bag, right?
Yes.
It is clearly yours, but it's not for everybody. You can always rely on the fact that politicians are politicians, and they're going to do whatever it takes to stay in office. And this is a side, we hadn't even planned on talking about this, but just as an aside, if you didn't see it today, President Biden stood up and said, I'm doing what Republicans haven't done. I'm shutting down the border. There is no more asylum seeking, period, because the Republicans won't do it. I'm doing it as the president. And I'm like,
isn't he our hero? And all of his, right?
3.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again,
all of his fans, his fan base are all going to say, thank goodness for him. Oh, idiots.
But again, he knows that is it's one of the biggest topics for all voters.
Yeah.
And with, just a few short months to go before the election, he's going to champion this, and he's going to take control, and he's going to fix it. So you can always count on politicians being politicians, and they're going to write the things that are really of concern for the American public. So you've always got that in your back pocket.
It never ceases to amaze, not even for a minute, not even for a single second. What else do we want to say about this? This weaponization?
The weaponization of the DOJ, just as kind of a final point, is President Trump is not going to be shy about this, and it's not something that I think any of us should be happy about. And those of you that are probably need to take a step back and look at this and go, listen, revenge as a politician that's not a road that we need our politicians going down.
Right.
It's not who we are as a nation. It shouldn't be. That's how third world nations, of that's their life cycle. That's not us. That's not who we're supposed to be. So as much as, we would all like to see certain former secretaries of state sitting in a jail cell somewhere, chasing that individual down in her 80s is probably not, where we really need to go.
Right. And, I mean, the last thing you want to do is paint a sympathetic figure of that woman or any one of them, really.
Making her a martyr. Oh God.
Can you imagine?
Terrible.
Because she'd be the first one implying that that's what she is,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Oof. Unreal.
Talking about bad business. Right?
Yeah,
Listen, we don't talk sports on here very often.
we don't.
And
Mostly because I couldn't carry my own in that.
and we talk about women's sports even less.
Yeah.
But this right now, there's an interesting thing happening in the WNBA. And if you are of our age, yours and mine, I remember especially being a Chicago kid, the Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan effect, right? And you go back and they will tell you, that were older than us and paying attention to the NBA pre-Michael Jordan will tell you that even with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, the NBA was dying, right? And then Michael Jordan showed up, and then he changed everything for everybody.
Superstar.
Changed the league, with the shoe contract, everything that he did, right? And it was good business. And the NBA, truthfully, managed some of that as a league as much as the Bulls managed it as a team. Okay.
Right.
Because they knew what they had. For like 6 years, every single game of the season, home and away, the Bulls sold out because Michael Jordan was there. Like they would go to arenas where, like back in, pick your really, really bad NBA team from the 90s or from the late 80s. They'd sell that out too. It didn't matter because Michael was in town.
Right.
Now, the WNBA has the potential for that going on right now in Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, right? These two young ladies, they and more Caitlin Clark than Angel Reese, but they do have kind of a Batman Joker, good guy, bad guy thing going on between the two of them that started back in college, right? For the last women's Final Four NCAA tournament, people watched because of them. Right? They watched because even the year before that, they talked trash to each other during the tournament and it caught some attention. And then Caitlin Clark, broke all the scoring records and, both of the teams were very good and they were, headed towards each other in the tournament. And the one thing that the WNBA has that the NBA doesn't have is their season starts right after the college tournament.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
Right?
That's
so
how little I know.
Clark and Angel Reese both, like their school year wasn't even over with yet.
Wow.
Right? Because they just finished the tournament in
crazy. Yeah.
Late March, early April, got drafted, and they're already playing. And by the way, colleges still haven't graduated yet in some places.
That's wild. Yeah.
Right? So those two, specifically those two, came right out of college, right into the WNBA, and and started going. And the league is benefiting. There is more coverage, more viewership, more everything. Sports writers talking about the WNBA than there ever has been.
Ever. Right. Oh, absolutely. That I've heard things that I know the name Caitlin Clark.
Right.
Tells you everything you need to know right now. Yeah.
Right. People are.
I don't follow it all. So.
Right. But what's now for those of you that follow this, maybe even on the fringes, what's happening is more Caitlin Clark than Angel Reese, but she's been subjected to it too. The veteran players in this league that truthfully 6 months ago nobody gave a crap about.
Right.
To be honest, everybody
didn't.
Brittany Griner was a story because she was in jail in Russia, not because she was a professional basketball player. Right.
It brought really nothing to the sport. Like it didn't bring more attention to the sport. So
people didn't care about the WNBA, and not a secret really, but something that people just don't know is the WNBA has never made money. Never. It's subsidized by the NBA. The league itself has never made money. So, and it's because people just don't pay attention to it. It's not a thing that people watch, but people are talking about it now because of these two young women, right? And more Caitlin Clark than Angel Reese, but they've both been subjected to really harsh treatment by on the court and now in the media.
Yes.
On the court by veteran players and really poor officiating in a lot of cases. But in the media, I've seen reporters now who are already saying, I'm sick of talking about Caitlin Clark. We're 12 games into the season or 10 games in, I don't even want to talk about her anymore. Well, listen, if your full-time job is to cover the WNBA and you want to keep your job, you better write about one of the two of them every single day.
Every single day. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And did they say that about Michael Jordan? I wonder. Maybe they did. I don't know.
But probably in a way where they built him up, not as a villain necessarily, but more along the lines of hey, look at what this kid can do. Let's see what his future has. Is he can he beat Magic Johnson? Can they beat the Celtics in the East? It was all of those kinds of things. And then when Michael kind of hit his stride, every single year it was, who's the next Michael Jordan? Allen Iverson, Grant Hill, all these guys from the past. And the league and the media, they cultivated that, right? I want to be like Mike. Gatorade commercial. I mean, even his endorsements did it.
Endorsements for days.
Right. But right now, for whatever reason, the WNBA is not protecting these two young women. Their best assets in the league, for the league. They're not protecting them. They're not cultivating them. They're not doing their part to ensure their own survival. And, for everybody who has complained that women's sports doesn't get its due, this is it. Like, this is the opportunity that you're going to get, probably the only one for a while. So if you want people to pay attention to women's sports, especially women's basketball, you have to work this. And I know
go ahead.
No, I mean, people are trying to turn it into a racist thing.
Right.
Like Caitlin Clark because she's white, or people only like her because she's white, or people only pay attention because she's white. And
here's an example of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
White privilege.
What a surprise. One of the cackling hens from The View.
Yeah. Right. Why? I mean, really? Like, who cares?
Right.
Seriously. Or the villain thing of, because a lot of people don't like Angel Reese. She's a little bit rough around the edges. She'll even, if you watch her play, I'm not even talking about her as a person. I'm just talking about her on the court, because I did watch a lot of the women's tournament. And she's a physical player, and she's got a little bit of a dirty streak to her. And that's okay. It's part of basketball. Yeah. And they've got this good guy, bad guy thing going.
Right.
It's all right there. Literally, you could write a movie about this. And it could be, but nobody's doing it. It's bad.
They're dropping the ball. They're dropping the ball, Clay. They're so dropping the ball on this.
There it is.
Thank you.
I don't understand in this day of, attempted equality, right? Everybody wants equality, at least on the face. And that's what everybody talks about. I mean, equality for women, equality for races, equality in sports, equality and all this stuff. And now you've got an opportunity to really, really make an impact and benefit the whole WNBA. Every player in that league benefits from those two young women. Yeah. So
I'll tell you what, I think, Clay, and I'll piss off the feminists, but what else is new? Petty witches. I was going to use the other word. I didn't. I'm proud of myself. Petty. Like that is a huge part of this. Women inherently have this thing that we do, and we are so good at being the drunk girl in the bathroom. You're so beautiful. Oh my God, I love you. Your hair looks so great. You are smart. You are, you know what I mean? Right? Drunk girl, we are one extremity that we're either drunk girl in the bathroom, telling every other girl how beautiful and special and important they are. But then when they get a little too special, a little too important, a little too big for their britches, now we got to tear them down. Now we got to rip them to shreds. And this is something that you see over and over again. And the perfect examples are because they're recognizable celebrities. You look at your Britney Spears, that's probably your most perfect example right there. And even Taylor Swift, who, I'm not really a fan. I acknowledge her incredible talent and her genuine gift at what she does. All of the things, she's just not my cup of tea. Probably because I'm like a 52-year-old woman. I mean, but, because she is at such a height, now people got to tear her down, rip her to shreds. Her popularity hasn't suffered at all, but you see it. And this is, to me, this is another example of that, because of exactly what you just said. Now you have these two young women who can, essentially be, at least for the moment, the face of the WNBA. Yeah. And you can platform this huge, like you can do so much with this as far as branding and everything and getting people in. And what do? Now we're just going to tear them apart. We're just going to rip them to shreds. We're going to beat them up. We're going to do what we do as women. And I'm not saying men help at all. You guys don't help nothing. But I mean, geez, man, we're our own worst enemies, I think, in so many ways. And it's such a shame. And of course, there's so much more going on with that. And I don't know if it's that the people at the top there don't know what they're doing. I mean, because I would say, get rid of these people, these CEOs or whatever their title name position is at the head of the WNBA, I would say get them gone, put somebody in there who's actually got some business sense here and do something with this. You got the golden opportunity. Look at the Kelsey brothers. They revitalized the NFL. So many people walked away. I walked away a long time ago. And they brought people back. These girls could do that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's, it takes, every league's got to have their star. And I know that the departure of Tom Brady from the NFL left a huge hole. And the Kelsey brothers jumped in with both feet, and good for them,
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes was okay, but his wife was a little divisive. So there was a different social aspect to that. And, there's just nobody that really jumped in and could fill that void. And then you had those two. And these two young ladies, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, they could be the face of the WNBA. And it's amazing, you mentioned, that guys don't necessarily help. But I will tell you that two of the biggest protectors of Caitlin Clark right now are Stephen A. Smith, who I'm not a fan of, the sports talk guy, and Charles Barkley, who I am.
I was just going to say Charles Barkley. I read that. Yeah.
Right. They both are saying the same thing in that, like, this is not basketball. This is petty crap. It doesn't belong on the court, and it's bad for the league. So, while you do have the dedicated WNBA writers, I mean, and then you've got people like The View, but you do have journalists that are covering this that are, washing their hands of it and not, doing what they should be doing. You do have other people paying attention and saying, yeah, we gotta, this is bad for everybody. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out if the league steps up and fixes themselves and gives the league itself a fighting chance to get better. I hope they do. I mean, like, the WNBA is kind of a loss. It's not something that draws a lot of people, but these two ladies could make it something worthwhile. They really do have that potential, and we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'll keep a casual eye on it.
Yeah, we all will. It'll be a casual eye at best. But, hey, look, but journalism as a whole is tough business. Washington Post, for those of you that are paying attention to this, they're doing a little bit of a restructure right now. So they had one of their editor-in-chief, I think, step down.
Yes.
And, it's being backfilled.
Sally
Busby, right? I think it's being backfilled by, somebody else. They're doing a little restructure. I think they're going to 3 departments. I think they're doing a current news, editorial, and then essentially the third department is like, hey, we got to reconnect. We got to reconnect with readers because they've lost half of their readership in the last 3 years. And they just last year lost $77 million, right?
That's painful. That hurts. Yeah.
So that, the guy in charge stood in front of the entire newsroom and said, hey, this is what we're doing. I'm replacing Busby with so-and-so, and we're restructuring, and this is what it's going to look like. And instead of a newsroom that truthfully should be fearful of for their job and their livelihood, he got backlash. He's like, because
it was because of who he put in, right?
Yeah. Oh, now there's 3 old white guys running this place. Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Listen, be worried about getting paid next week. All right.
Right.
Don't worry about DEI and all this other crap. You need to be worried about keeping your job because, he said it himself. Nobody is reading what you're writing because it's so divisive and it's so off the wall and it's so not, what our viewership or our readership wants to hear. Nobody cares what you say. And that's what the newsroom didn't get. And that's why they're losing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another example of the failed DEI initiative. It's just absurd. It's just stupid. Like, where is the common sense? Doesn't matter. Nothing matters except for checking off boxes, diversity boxes. Doesn't matter if they're qualified. Doesn't matter if they, do their research. Doesn't matter if they're even literate. Doesn't matter. Long as you check this particular box, we're good. Well, this is how you pay for it, and thankfully it's just a newspaper, because you have the other cases of airlines and airplanes falling apart in the sky because DEI. I mean, when does
Yeah.
it stop? Like, right?
No,
That's the question. When is enough really for these people?
so WAPO sacrificed journalism for agenda,
Mhm.
right? Which is, on both ways, not just in like you're talking about on the who they hire, who they employ, who they put on staff,
Right.
those kinds of things, but what they write about and how they write it.
Mhm.
They like many other news sources have thrown their journalistic integrity out the window,
Mhm.
right? And have gone straight editorial in probably 80 to 90% of what they write. And that's why they're losing readers,
Right.
because people, contrary to popular belief, like people want the news and they want to be able to draw their own conclusions.
Yes.
Especially, and I hate to say this, but especially people who read. There's a
Mhm.
difference between those who solely watch, right? And they just get fed
Mhm.
versus the people who seek out and read and, put the time and effort into, they dedicate time to reading the news versus
Right.
having it on in the background and listening to whatever talking
Sure.
head is telling them and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Somebody who's reading the news cares, truthfully.
Mhm.
They're interested.
Yeah,
They
that's a
don't
great
want to,
point. That's
yeah,
very
they don't
true.
want to be told what to think. They just want to be told the facts and then they figure it out on their own
Yes.
for the most part.
Mhm.
And that's why they're losing readers, is that
Yeah.
it's not journalism anymore. It's
No.
editorializing.
Yep.
And
And it's obviously, like you said, it's not just them. There's so many others like
no,
that. And it is exhausting. It's exhausting when I, along with so many people, and I'm sure I can include you in that, have been saying for years now, just give me the facts. It's okay if they're not the facts that align with what I thought or what I believe or what I want them to be. I'm fine. I'm a big facts over feelings girl. If I need to be corrected, I'm fine with that. If you have information that I don't have and you can enlighten me, I am so good with that. It's totally fine. But I'm so exhausted from everything is a hit piece. Everything is an attack on one person or another person. We live in a really upside down world when it comes to, well, everything, but specifically this.
and listen, folks, Elsa and I have been saying this. We say this all the time. We are not journalists.
Nope.
We are.
Nope. Don't even want to be one.
If you want to put a word on it, it's punditry. We're pundits. We provide information and we provide our opinion on the information. What we do
Mhm.
encourage all of you guys to do is, if something we say spikes your interest, go look it up yourself.
Right.
Go
Yeah.
find out the facts.
Go
Dig
look.
into it. As much as we love you guys and we appreciate you listening to us talk for an hour, you should question everything. Like
Yes.
everything that is said in the
Mhm.
news, especially when you don't know for a fact that it is unbiased. You should check it
Right.
out. And that includes us. We're not journalists, never claimed to be.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, what we've lost is journalism, and this
Yes.
is WAPO is the prime example. Their
Mhm.
journalistic integrity is gone. They are no longer journalists. It's mostly editorializing, and this is what you get. You lose $77 million in a year, and you lose half your readership in 3 years because people
Yeah.
stop paying attention because
Yeah.
they don't want to
Yeah.
listen.
I'll be very interested to see if they can and will essentially rebrand and reinvent themselves, because I think that's the only way they could save themselves really at this point, just to go completely against the expectations of the mob, the DEI mob, go completely against it and go straight journalism, and that I think that's the only way, because then they would truly stand out. You know what I mean? Like then you'd say, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I know. I just want the facts. I want somebody to tell me exactly what you just said. I want somebody to tell me, the events that happened or the situation as we know it, and let me draw my own conclusion. If somebody presented that to me, if I knew that existed, I will pay for that subscription. No problem. Happy to. So but they're listening.
When I read the restructure, the thing that caught my attention, and I think what would be a great indicator is, they said it was going to be 3 departments. One of them
Mhm.
was the reconnect with readers, bring readers back department. One department was journalism, current events kind of thing, and one was the editorial department.
Mm.
The current events department isn't 4 or 5 times larger than the editorial department.
Mhm.
There's your indicator. Because
Right.
if they are of equal size with equal employment and of equal focus, that's
Mhm.
where you have a problem, because
Right.
you are no longer providing predominantly journalism, and
Mhm.
people lose track of what is true fact journalism and what is an
Yeah.
editorial, because there's so much of it in the paper. Like editorials used to be, that was a big thing. Like this is an editorial, right? It was,
right.
very clearly designated.
Mhm.
This is an opinion piece. Don't
Right.
mistake this for anything else. Now it's just, you can't even tell the difference anymore.
No, you can't. You can't. If it's even there, it's like really tiny letters underneath their name, underneath the date, underneath the, it's usually very small. I see that all the time. So I have which one is it? I think it's just maybe Google or MSN. I don't know what I have, but I like to look at all of the different things, so I have like the browser page that opens up when I open up my computer, right? And it's all the quote unquote news, the latest news going on. And every single one, you click the tab and it slides to the next story and you just get the headline and the next blah, blah, blah. And every single one of them, and I mean every single one of them, is actually an opinion piece or an editorial piece. None of them are actual news, I mean, a couple here and there, but most of them, and it's always some sensational headline, misleading clickbait, basically. And I mean, and that's where we're at. That's where we are right now in our society. And we need to change that quick. And I think the only way we can do it is to do like the readers did with Washington Post and just say, no, I'm done. Right. I'm done. I'm done with it. You're not getting my clicks. You're not getting my subscription. None of them. Come back to real journalism, real stories, and not all this, Inquirer of 2024, remember the Inquirer?
Oh, yeah.
There was another one too. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that was the big one. But that is what our news is now. Inquirer 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah. and go back, we'll hit our last topic, go back 80 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So this week, this week, you want to talk about a news story, right? Invasion of Europe, right? 80 years ago. And again, this is Tuesday. We record on Tuesday. So it's Tuesday the 4th. And, for those that are less, versed in history, tonight, the night of the 4th into the 5th, was the actual original planned invasion date. And the channel was, covered in fog and high winds on all the drop zones for the paratroopers. And so they pushed a day. So there was a day, they spent all day today. All those troops spent all day today, amped up, all their gear ready to go, thinking that tonight was the night.
Wow.
And then they got told, sorry.
Guess what?
Stand out. So can you imagine the adrenaline, the up and down crash that came with that? I can't even imagine, and listen, I was a paratrooper for 10 years. I'm wearing my 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment hat. I was a member of that organization for a long time, and they jumped on D-Day among, 3 other combat jumps during World War II. But, those folks, my forefathers, in the Army, I can't, even with the amount of time that I spent deployed, I can't imagine that. Like that specific, jump into combat, get all your stuff together, and even to the point, I think some of the guys were even putting on their parachutes. Like they were rigging up, right? Wow. And then all of a sudden it was, no. You got to wait. You got to take that back off again, put it off to the side. We got, you got 24 more hours.
Wow. And then, the amount of mental energy and like you said, adrenaline that you're putting into psyching yourself up, like preparing for this. And then it's like, hold on. Yeah. Whew.
And then, so this will air on Thursday, the 6th, which is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. So as the sun came up that morning, there were paratroopers behind the lines. The 101st and 82nd Airborne Division made massive parachute out jumps, behind the seawall. And then you had the beach landings were going on. So, in Normandy, and it was all going on. And that was, that is one of the examples of the greatest generation, why they are the greatest generation, is that specific day. And what they, as an entire military, were willing and did sacrifice to liberate Europe from the Nazis. I mean, it's unbelievable. Right. If you need to see it, if you need to feel it, there's nothing harder to stomach when it comes to this specific topic than the first 25 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. If you want to see the carnage that happened on that day, you watch that beach landing, or watch the first 2 episodes, probably the second episode of Band of Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
You get a feel for what the paratroopers were doing behind the lines and those kinds of things. Those are 2 great examples of really what happened on that day 80 years ago. And I salute all those folks. There are still some veterans around from D-Day. God love all of them. And it's an amazing moment for the world and for our country. And at 80 years on, we should never forget this. We should celebrate it every single year. Never forget.
Absolutely. My husband took me to see, they brought Saving Private Ryan back to the movie theaters for a limited time.
Oh, wow.
This was like a couple years ago. And my husband said, "Have you ever seen it?" I said, "No, I've never seen it." He's, "Oh, we're going." And I don't watch anything other than, you can laugh at me, light comedies. I watch very light, easy, chill, non-stressful things. And he takes me to see that on the big screen.
Yep.
I was traumatized for days because it actually makes me want to cry. I was so emotionally affected by it because, like you said, if you want to really immerse into the closest thing that you could possibly be in as a civilian, as just a average person, that's the thing to watch. But I warn you, if you're sensitive, if you're a wimp like me, it's really going to affect you very deeply. And it is something else. It does give you an incredible appreciation.
Yeah, that first 25 minutes is rough. It's rough. Yeah.
He did not prepare me for how rough.
I can remember, 2 incidences in my life. I went with my dad as a kid and we went and saw Platoon in the movie theater. And then when the lights came up, because that was so groundbreaking, when the lights came up at the end of the movie, I just remember a large number of, clearly Vietnam era veteran guys that were in the theater, and they were emotional. Right. I mean, there was crying. There was a lot of things going on in that theater. And I was a pretty young kid, but I remember that. Now, fast forward, Saving Private Ryan. And it's one of those differences, maybe in generations. I don't know. But I went to see Saving Private Ryan in the movie theater when it first came out. And I watched these 2 older gentlemen, clearly World War II veterans, had their baseball hats on and leather jackets, and with their wives, and they walked in and they sat down right in front of me. And that first 20 minutes lit up. And I was like, and then the movie, it's not like the movie slows down. You know what I mean?
No, it never slows down. Yeah.
And I was fully expecting, when the lights came up, for these 2 guys to be sitting there and shook and, that kind of thing. And these two old vets, they were like high-fiving and, all that
the old dogs. I love it.
I was like, okay, that's why those guys are a different breed. They just
absolutely. Well, there's always that meme, I guess it is, the juxtaposition of men from that time and the men from right now, with their blue hair and their skinny jeans and their, fragile. It's like,
that's not all men.
Real men.
Thank God. Thank God that's not all men.
Thank God for that. Thank God for real men.
I spent 25 years around some real friggin' warriors. They do still exist. So
I love it. I will take that toxic masculinity all the time, and it's not toxic. I hope everybody knows I was being very sarcastic. Masculinity is the greatest thing to humanity. So yes, but
again, to all of those, 80th anniversary of D-Day, salute to all of you, past, present. We the world owes you more than can ever be repaid. So thank you again.
Absolutely. And on that note, guys, we are saying goodnight to you, signing off. As always, join us in the comments and let us know what you think. And we look forward to seeing you next week too. Take care, guys. Clay, say goodbye. Sign them out. That doesn't even make any sense.
As always from me, folks, keep moving, keep tubing.